Hey guys, Josh Carter here with OneObjective. In today's video, we're going to be going over the flick shake, so stay tuned. Alright guys, like I said in the beginning, we're going to be going over the flick shake head. If you don't know what the flick shake head is, this is pretty much a wacky rigged weighted hook. It's just got a ball head on it, kind of like a round shaky head. This one here, this is the one we make. It actually has a weedless wire on it. Does pretty good, and it's great for working around docks, around laydowns, brush piles, all that jazz. So I really like throwing this in the fall. This is my fall bait, but I do use this with another particular bait I'll show you here in a second during the summer as well. And I'll go between a couple different baits here, and I'm going to show you why and what makes each one different. Some of them look very similar, so let's get to it. Like I said, I got 5 different baits here. These are my go-to baits when I want to throw a flick shake head, and I also throw these on a regular wacky rig as well. It just depends on the day, and sometimes, like I say, I'll have a wacky rig and a flick shake tied on, just depending on what kind of mood the fish are in. And you can see in the video, each bait here, I got underwater footage of what each one does underwater, and it's a big difference on certain ones. Now, like right here, you got the Gary Yamamoto, the Cinco. This is a salted bait. Even if you don't have the weighted head on it, it's going to sink when you skip it up under a dock or in a tree or whatever. So it's got a good sinking. It sinks really well. The only problem is with these salted baits is if you catch a couple fish on, they get tore up. Now you could say, oh, why don't you put O-ring on it? Well, I do sometimes, but the reason why I don't, see if I can do this one-handed here. The reason why I don't is when you put your O-ring on, you got to hook it this way. Okay, and as you can see, it goes in line with the bait. I don't like that too much, especially when they're kind of finicky on how they hit this bait. So I just go through the bait, so that way the hook is sticking out this way. For some people, it works better the other way, and hey, you know, there's no wrong way when it comes to fishing. And not unless you're holding a spinner upside down. But other than that, now when it comes to the difference in these two baits right here, this is the Yum Dinger. This is not a salted bait, so if you skip this under a dock wacky rig, sometimes it's going to sink, sometimes it's going to float. So you might have to pop it a little bit to kind of get to go underwater, so it'll start sinking down. It has a lot slower sink rate than a Cinco, and that's because it don't have the salt in it. Now, if I'm on a bite where I'm getting a lot of dinks, you know, just going with a bunch of dinks to get some good quality fish, I'll throw this bait a lot too, just for the fact that I won't have to go through so many baits. But I always start out with the Cinco. I have not really seen, and some people will argue this till the sun goes down, that Cinco catches more fish than the Yum Dinger. Just depends on the day, I think, you know. But I've gone and thrown a green pumpkin Cinco, ran out of those and went straight to a green pumpkin Yum Dinger, and still just kept on catching fish. So I didn't really see a big difference. But these two baits here, these are my fall baits. I love throwing these colors, mainly green pumpkin and watermelon seed, black flake, and like I say, these are my fall baits. This is what right here, what I'm going to throw in the fall. Now, when it comes to spring, I love throwing this bait. This is the Zoom trick worm. It's a great bait to throw, and as you see in the video, the underwater footage, is this bait, when it sinks down, it's got a lot of, let me move this stuff, it does this right here. So when it hits bottom, these flare out, boom, they flare out big, and if you pop it off the bottom, it's got a good flare. So when you're fishing beds, or you're fishing around fish that are gearing to go on beds, or kind of cruising around looking for a spot on bed, I love this bait right here. And what got me throwing this is when I marshaled for Ott Defoe, the Bassmaster Classic on Conroe, he was throwing the Bass Pro Shops version of the trick worm, and I was like, I'm gonna try that when I get back home. And I have fell in love with throwing this bait in the spring. And also, the Missile Baits 48 is a good bait, wacky rigged. It's got a good quiver action, as you see in the water. It just does this going down really slow. Great bait. Love throwing this bait in the spring as well. It's a little bit smaller profile than the trick worm, not much, but a little bit smaller. But these are my two go-to baits in the spring. Now, with the quiver just coming out, Missile Baits quiver, I didn't get to throw it much in the spring like I wanted to. So next spring I'll be throwing it a lot more. Now, when Missile Baits came out with this bait, they came out with a very versatile bait. And the reason why I say that is you can actually trim this down if you wanted and have like a Senko style bait. The way the body is and all that. You can also cut it in half and you got yourself a Nid rig body. Now granted, they make Nid rig baits, but if you don't have any, there you go. Also, it works right on a shaky head and all that. Now, the problem with this bait is it's not really salted, and when you skip up on their dock or anything, it's going to try to float on you, especially with this tail here. Depending on how it hits, it's going to sit there and float. So that's why it works really great on a flick shake head. Now, I love this bait in the middle of the summer. Beginning of summer through the middle of summer, getting into August, when the fish are really deep, you can go with a bigger flick shake head and throw these things off rock bluffs where they stair step down on the ends of really deep docks. Because what happens is when this thing goes down in the water, this tail is just flickering when it goes down. It just flickers like that going down, and it is phenomenal during the summertime. I love this bait during the summertime on a flick shake head. So but like I say, very versatile bait. You could use this all year long. I just didn't have the opportunity to use it all year long. Really got going with it in summertime. And I never really threw a flick shake head much in the summertime until this bait came out and I started using it and love it. But like I say, you got your two spring baits here, and then these are my fall baits. Now granted, I ain't gonna say that these don't work all year long, because the guys throw them in the summer all the time. I just don't throw them much during summertime. But I know a lot of guys want a lot of money throwing these things all the time. So, but this is just my techniques, I mean my setup here and how it worked for me. But like I say, let me know in the comments what you like to throw during summertime. Do you stay with the Senko all year long? Do you mainly just throw your small slender baits, or have you thrown the quiver? And what do you think about the quiver? We'd love to know in the comments down below. Now, when I tested all these lures, I tested it all on 8-pound InvisiX Seaguar line with the Smackdown braid. That's how I do all my finesse fishing, basically. I tie it on with the FG knot. I love the Smackdown braid. It's just a great braid. It's thin profile braid. It's expensive. It's a little more costly, but I like the bright green. So when you're fishing lures like this, especially when you're on a regular just wacky rig and you ain't got no weight, but when you fish something like this, you can see that line on top of the water, and any kind of jump or anything it does, it lets you know right then that you're getting a bite. So I love throwing the braid. And also I like it too, so if you're throwing around docks, lay downs, anything like that, you got that line that keeps from getting frayed up too bad until it gets to your leader, and then you know you have an issue. But where I fish Smith a lot, I like having a leader. I like having a clear line. If you fish dirty water, you can go all braid, but this is just 10-pound. This is the 10-pound Smackdown braid, and like I say, tied onto the 8-pound InvisiX Seaguar line. So but both with that setup and the Falcon finesse jig rod, I love this rod. It's been when they come out with this for the Expert Series rods, I fell in love. I got I think 4 of them now, and I use them for, you know, wacky rigging. I use them for Nico rigging, shaky heading. I actually use them also for a lot of my small finesse crankbaits. When they're on that real small shad, I'll use that. Really great bait. Really great rod. So but anyways, that's my setup, guys. I hope this helped you out. We're going to be doing some more finesse style setups, especially heading into the fall. We know it can be power fishing, but it can also have some tough days with some cold fronts, and you need to move over to that finesse style fishing. So we're going to give you several different finesse style baits for this time of the year and setup, so stay tuned. Also guys, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and guys, we'll talk to you later. See ya.